Welcome to Gemini season, guys. We are going to take a peek at your love life, see how your partner's feeling about you, any important actions you need to take for the month, and overall, I'm just going to cover a couple things as far as major major things going on in astrological, aspects. If you've got some big projects going on, especially if you're seeing this towards the end of anytime in May, before you get to the beginning of June, make sure if you've got some big projects that you're really working on, get things kind of in order and organized. They don't have to be perfect, but there is kind of a wrapping up energy happening that first week in June. So I would recommend, if you have any last minute things that you need to do, just to kind of work on that so that you can be in the best position for that, because apparently whatever it is you're working on has definitely been very important to you and has a pretty big reward for you. So I would definitely check those details. Speaking of checking details, towards the middle of the month, we've got some new things happening. So, I wouldn't make yourself super busy at that particular point where you're just kind of overwhelmed. I would just kind of make sure you're double checking those details and don't overdo it. Okay, you don't want to overdo yourself during that time. Make sure if you need some grounding, you're doing that. And then we've got some nostalgic stuff kind of happening. Deeper rooted conversations taking place around the 18th of the month. But those are times when I would recommend to stay very mature and realistic with those conversations. I wouldn't exaggerate. I wouldn't, sell yourself up in any kind of a way. I would just stay really practical and realistic in that. And then towards the end of the month, we've got a really good opportunity to just kind of take the lead on certain aspects that you've been, these bigger pieces that you've been working towards, bigger goals, things that you've been really trying to get going. There is going to be kind of an oomph in that direction with a major transit, basically. So when we have those major transits, we've got new opportunities coming. So keep that in mind. The major transit is Mars enters Aries. So that does make sense, just because Aries has a lot to do with those things that you've been pondering on and thinking about, putting all that energy into manifesting, and now we've kind of got some of those answers coming to by the end of the month. So if you've been waiting for some bigger answers, I would say some of them should be coming in by the end of the month. If you want to look at your personal situation, please do so. Remember, this is a general reading, guys, so take with this and leave the rest. All right, let's get into it. Hey, Aries. All right, let's take a look and see how the relationship is currently looking. I'll pull a couple cards for that. And then we'll just kind of go from there. Hope you guys are having a good month so far. And I wish you guys an awesome June. Alright, relationship currently. Alright, luck is on your side. And the end of a tough cycle approaches. Pisces also had that card. Pisces. Yeah, I believe it was. Luck is on your side. So that is a win-win situation there for you guys as well. They had a lot of win-wins. So right now we've got, it seems like all kinds of relationships are kind of going through this like renewal phase where they are just more in tune with one another. They're kind of on the same page. They're communicating a little bit better, which in turn is really creating a better bond and a better connection. And so right now, if you've been waiting for that or you've been hoping for that, I do see that is on, that is kind of headed your way, and that ball is in your court when it comes to that. Especially I'm feeling like communication-wise, or just kind of just seeing eye to eye on things. And where things might have just been a little bit muddy there, I feel like that's kind of coming back into, a fulfilling, rather than it feeling kind of stagnant or stuck, kind of like, I'm not sure, there's no clarity. I do feel like there's a renewal, which then, renews passion and renews your connection, and that's where I see that kind of better bond thing happening there. So that's good news. Let's take a look and see how they're feeling about you and kind of what to expect from them. Alright, healer and cycles. So perhaps your patience or your ability to, whatever you're expressing or however it is you've been supporting them in that manner has actually, done you well. It's helped them to feel like you are understanding and that you're helping them through this cycle, and that there is a sense of healing there. So you can expect them to feel that relaxation around you, and to maybe, start to loosen up a little bit, or maybe they were feeling a little bit uptight. So the more you've been kind of compassionate and supportive, the better that's been, and I feel like you're going to start seeing some of that kind of come out in their behavior as we get into June here. So that's good. That's a nice thing to look forward to. Where is it headed here? Listening to wisdom. and action to take. Follow your dreams and go with the flow. So there's definitely someone that's listening to either advice that's coming to them, maybe there's just kind of intuitive knowledge that's coming through, maybe just making kind of the, that higher level kind of decision making, and ascending to a better position in life, or just that better mentality, or whatever's going on there. But it's definitely a good thing happening. I feel like you guys are also listening to each other on a better level. Like you can learn from one another without it having to do with your egos. No one's inferior, no one's better, but there's just kind of this neutral level of confidence between the two of you, which is actually that is attractive when it comes to having a relationship and being able to do that with one another and have that connection that is mutually respectful on an intellectual level, on a spiritual level, on just a mutual understanding, personal level. All of those things does create more passion in a relationship. So going with the flow, even in times where you're like, what the hell is that, or whatever, just let that kind of be your guide, and that's how you can better take action to get more of what you're wanting here. Now, how to best communicate, just kind of a general idea here. Simply acknowledge that love is all around you as your truth. Get to know one another and learn to meet each other's needs and relationship patterns. It takes strength to recognize the need for change. So I don't want to get too deep on that, because depending on whose side that belongs to, people tend to take the wrong impression if I get too wordy when it comes to who this might be. But as you can imagine, it could be you. It also could be the person of interest that is feeling this way. But because we're talking about communication, but I am seeing that someone has gone through something that has created a level of strength, but it did take some realizations. It took, some ownership, and it's kind of difficult to turn that around and own things with somebody else, to try to take that step with honest communication. And that's really all you can do, is continue to be honest with one another and be on that same page. And for those moments where it is kind of frustrating, do remember, that there is love there, and that you just have to kind of remember that that's what's happening, even when things are in a strengthening pattern. Things are maybe being tested, or this person's going through something that's struggling, or that's difficult. And maybe they're struggling with things. Maybe they're struggling to communicate, like I just did. Get to know each other and learn each other's need for love. That's just learning one another in general. That goes for both of you guys. The more you understand your love language, the more you understand one another, what your needs are, the things that might take a little bit more tolerance on one side versus the other. Those are really important aspects to keep in mind, and that's where strong connections and lasting relationships kind of come into play, because you're willing to communicate outside of your comfort zone for someone else's strength, and for someone else's support, and to be there for them and for their satisfaction. But you've also built this line where is not going to be crossed. You don't feel like you're giving too much, and they know when to give back. You know what I mean? And that's something that's super important, especially for your sign, because there's a lot of that mental going on, and you need to be able to express, so it doesn't get all balled up in there and start creating unnecessary emotions or behaviors or whatever. So that is the best way to kind of communicate. Let's just get a card for how to maintain balance with yourself, in the relationship. Surrender to the divine. Yeah, because everything's going in a really good position, but I can see where there might be some moments where you're like, what the hell is that? And that's a good one too. Nothing's yet set in stone. So that's also telling you that you are in a holding pattern that's getting ready to shift. You've been waiting, for some realizations to come into play, or you've just been watching, this relationship strengthen and develop in a natural kind of way, and it's maybe been different than what you've seen in the past. Maybe in the past it's been very manicured, or everything's just very almost scripted. And this one's been a little bit different. It's been very human. It's been very natural and normal, and just a healthy development of a natural relationship that's kind of meant, that's how they're supposed to be. But I could see where it also, it does take a lot more time and compassion and tolerance, and patience in general, because of people who have to grow as well. And especially in relationships, sometimes we have to just accept those things and kind of be tolerant of that moment, for their higher good and their higher satisfaction. So if you do need peace, and serenity because you're tolerating that, or maybe on their end, definitely even maybe together, get some of that, get out there and have some fun times so you can kind of have that peace and serenity within, on an individual level, but also together. What the hell is going on? But somebody needs to clear throat chakra. Maybe it's me, or maybe you guys just need to have a nice long conversation. But either way, I hope that resonates. And if you want to look at your situation personally, all the information on how to do that is down below. Much love. Have a great month.